Malini Agarwal, and you're listening to the Boss Brown Women channel, a platform for and about inspiring women and the heartbreaks, lessons, and triumphs they experience on their journeys to success. The terms blogger and social media influencers have become commonplace today. But there was a time, pre-Facebook and Instagram, when these words had little to no significance. In India, these terms began to take shape with the advent of digital platforms like MissMalini. Today, I'm in conversation with Malini Agarwal herself to talk about how she built her online empire and how in 2020 she continues innovating and breaking boundaries with ventures like GirlTribe and MissMalini Trending.
I love that introduction. Thanks so much for having me.
I am so excited to have you for obviously very selfish reasons as well. But I think you have honestly redefined a category, which is like the blogging space and the online content creation space, and truly defined a really great niche for yourself in it, and continuing to grow it in so many amazing ways. So I am very excited to talk to you.
I'm too. Thank you.
Perfect. So to start with, I wanted to ask you, did you always know you wanted to go into the content creation space, or was there ever aha, this is it moment?
So when I started out, there wasn't really this content creation influencer space at all.
Yeah.
I mean, I pre-Facebook actually.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, I'm very old. So I never really knew what I wanted to do. Luckily, my parents never really set me in a doctor, lawyer, engineer direction. So I grew up all over the world. So my dad was the Indian diplomat. He was the Indian ambassador in various places. So I grew up in Somalia, Lebanon, Greece, Bulgaria, Germany, Ivory Coast. It was amazing. It was quite a ride. Hence, I have a very confused accent. And then I came back to India and I lived in Delhi for 6 years.
Wow.
And then in college, and somehow, in college you get into all these extracurricular activities so you can miss classes. And so I joined the choreography team. And as a result, I got sort of scouted to join a professional dance troupe called Veronica Jacob and the Planets. And so I ended up becoming a professional dancer, which I never thought I'd do for about 6 years. And then from there, it kind of evolved to the content space having just kicked off. So I joined a company called My Usha that used to do city updates and things like that. And I became a copywriter back in the day. And then I came to visit a friend of mine in Bombay. And I just fell in love with the city. Like the neon lights, it's all very Bollywood. It was like raining and I was sitting in a black and yellow cab and I was, and all I needed was a soundtrack. And I was like, oh my God, I need to move here. And just the energy of the place. So I decided, I was 22. I packed my suitcases and I had 40,000 rupees in the bank. And I said, I'm going to go make it in Bombay. Little did I know that 40,000 rupees lasts you 3 weeks max. And so so I wrote a whole book about this actually, my whole life. And it was living in a house with 6 girls and one pigeon that would sneak into the house and fly around, and I'd always be scared it's going to hit the ceiling fan and there'd be blood everywhere. Yeah, it was just insane. And then I ended up joining another content company called Activate Technologies, and I guess I started to get into the copywriting space. What I really wanted to do when I was growing up was to become a VJ, because that was the cool career at the time.
Definitely.
And I remember I auditioned for MTV, and then I didn't get that job in Delhi, and then I auditioned again. I actually came to the MTV office in 2000 when I first moved here. I marched in with my 5 Kodak very campy prints, and they were very sweet. They spent 5 kind minutes with me and sent me on my way. Ironically, many years later, I joined a company called Asia Content, and I sat down for the interview, and I assumed I was going to be just a random copywriter. And they said, look, what we're looking for is someone to run the romance and sexuality channel on MTV. And I was like, you're going to pay me to write about love? This is amazing.
Carrie Bradshaw.
Yeah, it was just great. And in between, I'd done all these, there was these ridiculous websites that used to ideas for you, where my job was to go to Vijay Sales and write reviews of washing machines for the site. These fake reviews. And I was like, what am I doing? I'm just standing around Vijay Sales not knowing. I don't know how to use my washing machine. So anyway, this MTV job sounded amazing to me. And while I was there, this guy who now runs Marching Ants, Rajiv Churasama, who I always owe, said, hey, my friend is starting a radio station. Why don't you go on audition? And I was like, okay. So one lunch break, I went from MTV to Win 94.6 to audition. And I got the job. It was crazy. And I was like, wow. And I always wanted to do radio because in Delhi, I'd gone to All India Radio for an interview. Yes. And they told me I roll my R's too much. So I didn't get this. So I think it's all. And then it was pretty crazy and surreal to have walked back into the same MTV office where I had come to audition. And I just feel like I had really good mentors on the way. So Prahlad Kakkar had given me advice. When I went to meet him, he was like, I was like, I want to be a VJ. And he's like, no, what else do you want to do? And I was like, what do you mean no? And he was really sweet about it. And I think it's also because I still wanted to be a VJ. And I remember going again to an audition for Channel V. And Carol Gracious and I were both auditioning. And the audition was, okay, now you have to wear like a bikini top, get into a pool and speak, which is fine. But she did this very graceful walk out of the pool. And I did the really good chatty one. But then I think I didn't get the job because I didn't really look that graceful walking out of the pool. And then I was like, I don't want to be a VJ anymore. I think this is not my jam. And then cut to, I was in radio for 9 years and I loved it. I always say radio is my first love, blogging is my marriage. And then I ended up starting the blog just, because at MTV, at radio, sorry, they had given me a gossip column called Malini's Mumbai. So looking back, it's like the first iteration of the blog. But I always felt I didn't have enough time to write about the things I liked, like the music scene and things that were happening and like, boss women that I met. They would, shorten the whole thing into who came to what party, which celebrity was spotted.
Very page 3.
Yeah, very page 3. So I met a friend when we were in Dubai in 2008 and he's like, why don't you start a blog? And I was like, what's a blog? And he's like, oh, like online diary. And I was like, but who reads it? And he's like, oh, don't worry about that. And he made me a WordPress account. I remember it was like the 5th of May, 2008. I still remember. And I started blogging and I guess there's been no looking back. So, there was no plan. But I think now looking back, everything I did was preparing me for this role. Like I learned teamwork when I was dancing because you have to be in sync, otherwise it doesn't work. I learned all the Photoshop and all the nerdy skills. I taught myself at MTV. I learned, being a host and presenting on radio. And so, I guess I was always meant to do it, but I had no plan.
I honestly think this is so helpful, especially for today's younger generation.
Yeah.
Because you can feel a little almost like directionless at times.
And I think people worry that I need to know what I'm going to do. And I'm like, you don't. And, you don't need to, you can do multiple jobs. That's why everyone always says, they come and say, how do I become a rich and famous blogger? I was like, first of all, don't try to become a rich and famous anything. And don't start content and influencing and blogging for the money because you'll then end up compromising. And so even when I started, I had a day job and I blogged at night for, 2008 to 2010 before I did it full time. So I didn't have the pressure of having to do stuff with brands. And it was very new, so even brands weren't really doing stuff. Yeah. And then I jumped into it when I'd established an identity and a voice and a personality that is genuinely getting a following for what content I'm creating. So that's my advice to the people listening.
Exactly, yeah, because I feel like a lot of people are trying to get into that space. Because I think social media has made it's beautiful that everybody can have a creative voice and express it. But I love that your focus should always be on first finding your own original voice before chasing the ad dollars.
Yeah, absolutely.
I would say. That is great. That is so inspiring. I love that you found something little from everything that you've done, which is such a myriad of experiences that you had, but every little experience taught you something that is helping you today.
Yeah.
That's great. So tell me a little about how Miss Malini as we know it today came into existence and you as an entrepreneur.
So it's been 10 years. It's been a decade of Miss Malini, and I think there's been a lot of evolution. Thank you. So it started off as a blog, and it was just me writing sort of a Desi girl adventures in Bombay. And then it evolved because I realized that people wanted to see more. So I segregated it into Bollywood, fashion, lifestyle, beauty, and then I couldn't write all of it alone. So I hired a few writers, and I hired them very unorthodox. I just found them on Twitter and just hired them. That's my hiring strategy because, you should get the people who, you have to get the people who consume the content to create it today.
They know what people do.
Yeah, and you don't need to have a whole, journalistic background to do this, which is why I never claimed to be a critic for films or fashion because I don't come from that background. So it's my opinion, but I can't blanket say this is not good. Yeah. And no one should, I think. So I think it's evolved from that time to different platforms because I've always loved social media, and whether it was Twitter or Facebook or Snap or TikTok now, we've been really platform agnostic about creating our content. And for us, and the way I like to describe it is my goal really is to create, if like the Oprah network was being created today in a digital medium for the brown girl. This is how I think I would do it, because I think we don't have the millennial, influencer or somebody, aspirational person to look up to. And this word influencer now has a bad reputation. And I don't think it's influencer. I think it's content creator or voice or, something relatable. And so that's what I wanted to create, like the equivalent of your Ellens and Ariana Huffington and Oprah and, even Ryan Seacrest, like the radio background. And and I think that's the way we're going. So we're now creating OTT shows for, we're pitching Netflix and Amazon. I wrote a book called, To the Moon, How I Blogged My Way to Bollywood. We do a lot of stuff, even in terms of like, not just feminist stuff, but just fun things for women to do. So I feel like women have a hard time on the internet in India, and you'll agree, your inbox is full of weird messages from guys, sleazy to funny. So that's why I created GirlTribe. It started off as a Facebook group and a community with 100 women, and now it's like 35,000 women. And we do like physical events to meet, and there's basically that noise and trolling isn't there. Our creed is empathy and kindness always. So even things that are hard to discuss or we may not agree on, we discuss them in a kind way. And I found like everyone from 16 to 60 who's in the GirlTribe, my mom is 80, she's in the GirlTribe, really connects on those things. So that's kind of been the evolution, and I'm very excited to see where it goes.
Honestly, I love that, because this is actually the image that I had, the vision that I had in my mind with even Boss Brown Women. That's why when I saw all the work that you were doing in this space with, especially with GirlTribe, because you need almost like a safe space where you can speak to each other without like trying to attack each other.
Yeah, that's why it says let your vibe attract your tribe.
Exactly. Yeah. So I love that you're trying to create a better space for women to express themselves.
Yeah.
And to just be able to have conversations around issues that almost all of us are virtually
we all have. And the thing is, people assume that women's issues are rape and menstruation, but that's not true, right? Everything is a women's issue: travel, food, mental health, relationships, work, and I think it's great, because if you look at the threads in the GirlTribe, and everyone please join, is that the threads are about literally everything. And it's like the one place you can come and ask for, hey, I had a baby, give me a name that starts with the letter J, to I'm coming to a new city, where should I go and shop, to I'm having a personal issue. You can even put up an anonymous post, and sometimes it's easier to ask a stranger than someone in your friend circle or family, so you don't have that judgment.
Exactly. I think that is so important, especially for our generation.
Yeah, absolutely.
We move out to cities where we're living in more nuclear style families, especially the younger generation. We're trying to make it on our own in the cities, and it can be a lonely journey.
It can, and I think that's the biggest thing, right? Emotional satisfaction and happiness. You can go to a city, get a lot of money, get a job, do all those things, but unless you have the support system and circle, and you see now there's a lot of mental health issues and anxiety and fatigue from social media, and I think people need that support system that will help guide them through the tough times.
Yeah, where you don't have to feel like you're alone going through this.
Absolutely.
You don't need to confide in maybe slightly judgmental, like say family members or friends.
And sometimes you just need a neutral party. That's why people go to therapists, right?
Oh yeah. Definitely, you do need that from time to time.
Yeah.
So that's really great. I love that you're trying to create that kind of an inclusive space, because I think we're in a dire need for it.
Yes,
for sure.
I think so. Yeah.
So that is so exciting. Like with Miss Malini now, another question that I had, you have just diversified into so many different segments. How did that come to be? Did you incorporate like your users' feedback? Because I know that you were talking about how I saw that people wanted more of this and that, so you diversified. And as you scale, how do you continue that process of involving your user in the creation process almost?
So yeah, absolutely right. So in GirlTribe, we get a lot of feedback on the things that people want to consume, and I think a lot of it is just the pulse of the millennial and now Gen Z. So when you have to be observant and see what people are posting, what they're interested in, and literally it's everything, right? Which is why I tell brands, don't be a very static personality on social media. You have to involve. You have to go to the party and engage with people. You have to be a friendly brand. So what we've done is tried to cover everything that a person on a daily basis is interested in. So I try to create a clock. So I try to describe the millennial user as Robbie. I've named him or her Robbie, and I think about, what does Robbie think about in a day? From waking up, what to have from breakfast, workouts, what movies to watch, where to go, work, relationships, and then that's one calendar. And then there's a second role, which is deemed important or is impacted by what's happening in the world today. So if there's like the fire in Australia, or there's something happening politically, or there's Diwali or Christmas coming up, what are they interested in? So there's two clocks running simultaneously for Robbie, and that's kind of how we decide the content. And I think that's what's really important. So like today, and I'm very excited because we're launching something called the influencer desk called Miss Malini Trending.
Love that.
Because we've done showbiz and fashion and lifestyle. That's always going to be sort of the core. But today's celebrities are the influencers, the content creators, and we want to showcase them. One, because we want to give back to the community. Two, because they are the new stars. People want to see what they do, where they go, who they love, in a positive way. And I always describe this as the reason people love Bollywood is because Bollywood is this escape from reality, right? And the reason they love what people wear, where they go, who they're dating, is because you're extending that dream. And now it's the same for the millennial content creator. Today's superhero may be a Bhuvan Bam or Mostly Sane as much as it is Shah Rukh Khan. So we want to give them that, as you say, darja and respect. So we're really excited to launch that, and I think that's an example of sort of staying with the times and looking forward at what's going to happen next.
I could not agree more, because now the average millennial or Gen Zer doesn't really look to just gossip columns or just Bollywood for inspiration. It's the influencers on Instagram.
Absolutely.
An average person is spending over 4 hours a day on Instagram. So
absolutely.
The power of the platform.
The power, and I think it's our responsibility to create positive content. So we made a couple of rules early on, which were, one is never write anything you can't say to somebody's face, which then if you apply that will actually dictate a lot of your personality on even how you comment and how you behave as an individual, and definitely as a brand. The second one is to spark joy, and that is inspired by Mary Kondo, who has a show called Tidying Up, and I love that idea. So she says only hold on to the things that spark joy, but what if we also applied that to the things that we offer others? And the third is to remember that followers are people too, because right now what we've done is we've reduced people to a follower count, to a number. And so when I go to GirlTribe, I actually go and I look at the people behind the number, and I look at their faces, and I look at the things they're saying, and you have to rehumanize each other to really connect with them. So I think that's kind of what I feel we need to do. We need to flood the internet with positivity. You see, it's not really this generation's fault. We were never taught how to use the internet. So similarly, like if I didn't teach you how to drive the car and I gave you the keys, you would probably crash, So we were not prepared, but I think we are now learning from all our mistakes, and we can prepare this next generation that is going to be born with a cell phone in their hands on how to navigate it and how to deal with the fact that social media is a curation of everyone's best moments. And so you don't need to feel that FOMO all the time. And you also should not present this life you're not living or feel forced to have to do that.
I honestly love the kind of leadership style that you're leading with, because it's so customer-centric almost. You're constantly thinking from the perspective of who's consuming this content. They're
what
an
do they
actual
need?
human being. And how can I make them feel better? How can I spark them?
And that's the thing. And I always describe it as the virtual world is actually a mirror of reality, right? We should be, and that's why influencers are successful, because they're being themselves. And I always, every time we're doing anything or I talk to anyone, I say, okay, if social media is a reflection of reality, and that's why my excuse for being on the phone all the time is I made a commitment to live there as much as I live here. Like I wouldn't disappear from here, the real world for days on end, is that if it is a mirror of reality, how are you conducting yourself? If you feel that you're a good person in real life and you behave a certain way, how similar is your social media virtual avatar to that? And why do we use social media as a dumping ground for our negative emotions? It doesn't need to be that. And then the other things, I actually did a TEDx at NMIMS about this, about social media legacy. See, I post pictures of my breakfast now and again, but the point is, this is your legacy. Our grandparents had a different legacy. It was passed down in conversations and stories. But today, everything you're leaving online, every message, every post is your legacy that people will see, your kids will see. And what is that story? And so think back about how people will remember you and what you want to be known for. And I realized this, not like I didn't know this from the beginning. I realized this myself, because when I started as a gossip blogger, I was writing whatever I wanted about people. But then I realized I was hurting people I didn't even know. And I think of myself as a good person.
Exactly.
So I reassessed my strategy.
Because you need those to be compatible. Like, how can you be a good person but still be hurting people, whether that be in the real world or the virtual world?
And it's kind of like Black Mirror, right? It's giving you the ability to say anything you want.
Exactly.
So you have to think about how you're behaving.
Because with great power comes great responsibility.
Absolutely.
Because I really think social media has given everyone such an amazing platform to tell their own story. You're not limited to somebody else's filter of you. Like, even if you want to be in content creation, rather whatever you want to do, you can speak for yourself.
Yeah.
And have an audience that, if you are authentic, if you are real, they will want to listen.
And that's the thing. Social media has democratized everything. You don't need to be
Exactly.
born into wealth or with connections anymore. But with that also has come the ability for anyone to be a critic or a
Exactly.
troll. So one, the social media platforms have a responsibility to manage that. I mean, we've all heard what happened with Cambridge Analytica. But it's also up to us as individuals to behave a certain way.
Truly. We have to, again, like, you have to be responsible about how are you using such a powerful platform.
And it starts with you, right? It's just like, treat other people the way you want to be treated. I mean, like Gandhi said that years ago. So I think it's really important and it's okay if everyone's made mistakes, but every day is a new opportunity to put out into the universe something positive.
Exactly. I truly think there's nothing wrong in accepting the fact that maybe you had made mistakes earlier. Like, you recognize this is the gossip columnist. Maybe that wasn't the best content you put out.
Sure.
But you know that you have the ability to change. That's not something that's going to define you.
Absolutely, yeah. And I think the people who have that epiphany and are willing to accept that are great role models.
Right. I love that. So this is actually, I'm loving this conversation
Me
so
too.
much. I am so invested. So another question I wanted to really ask you was, where do you see Miss Malini going forth? Because you have evolved so much over time, just in the way that you're talking about the company.
Yeah.
What is your vision for Miss Malini going into 2020 and beyond?
So I really want us to have a positive impact. I've done this for 10 years, but again, it's legacy, right? I want to build a brand that is remembered well after I'm gone. That's why I say Malini Agarwal is separate, and Miss Malini represents that millennial. So that's why I created an anime. She's going to age better than I will. And I feel like I want to create a voice that people feel, okay, this was a homegrown voice that represents me as a millennial in India. And one of the things we're going to do is obviously create positive, empowering content. See, I don't think empowerment for women needs to always be, beating a drum about empowerment. You can empower people through positive content, through opportunity, through giving them community. So I think the future is, community over individual influencer, which is why I've created the GirlTribe. I think that there is a great opportunity to make social change. So we're really excited about going in that direction. And like I said, the Miss Malini trending with the influencer news desk, everything with GirlTribe. At the end of the day, I want to be proud of what we've done. I want to create an office culture, an opportunity that people enjoy. We have like 70 people who work here now, and I love that it's a real job now, right? There's so many, and that's why I feel proud that Miss Malini was kind of at the forefront of carving that path for this industry, where today it's completely legitimate for a girl to say, hey, I want to be a fashion influencer or blogger, and parents are happy for them to do it, no matter what their story is. And there's so many great stories now. So I think that, I want to continue sort of being an innovator and a leader in this arena. And you never know what happens, right? The technology changes so much, but I love it. I'm very grateful for what I get to do.
You seem to be really, really able to adapt to change really fast, I think, and capitalize on it.
It comes from a great deal of FOMO, so I don't want to miss out on what's happening next.
I love that, but no, I completely agree with what you're saying. There's a reason why even I'm able to sit here and say to my parents even that I want to start a podcast, or I want to go into content creation. It's not just like, I'm sorry, what?
Yeah, it used to be like, hey, I want to be a writer, and they're like, oh, but get a real job. It legitimately is.
Yeah, it's like, so you're saying you're going to be broke here.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool, sounds good. But yeah, actually this is a great segue, because you said your goal is to even create opportunity and inclusion. So I know that you do a lot of work talking about feminism, and you have built a company, a great company from the ground up as a woman. What were the kind of struggles that you faced along the way, and now that you are at the top of the pyramid, as you would say, what is it that you want to be doing to make it better or easier for the next generation of women coming in to get access to that opportunity?
So first, I'd like to define feminism. I think it has a bad rap and reputation, and I think a lot of people are confused about what it means. Feminism, if you're a feminist, you believe in equal rights. I think that, and my husband put it, Nasha put it really well, who's also the CEO of the company. He said, feminism is not just believing in equal rights, it's being an active participant in making that change. So the reason why it has a bad rap is that people think that that active participation is always going to be anti-male or aggressive or negative, and it isn't. Maybe in some cases it is, but feminism, we need to take that word back. So that's my definition of feminism. For me, we want to work in both ways. It's not, I don't think that you can shut out the men, because you have to focus on positive masculinity, because they are the role models for other guys. Those are the people look up to. I actually have another group on Facebook called Positive Masculinity, and I do a lot of research within that, and I ask the guys, so tell me at what stage in your life were you made to feel like you're more valuable than your sister? And they said something interesting. They said at the dinner table and in the playground. Because at the dinner table, they'll get that extra paratha, or they'll be served first. In the playground, they're the ones who are not checked. The girls are like, oh, sit here, don't be rough, don't act like a boy. And they were told don't cry like a girl. And I think if we make that change there at that age and stage, and it's up to the mothers as well, and the fathers. So for me, it's kind of a process of doing two things. One, with empathy and kindness, educating people about things that they may have had misconceptions about. And it's also about creating opportunity. So we want to launch GirlTribe in multiple languages, because the next 500 million people coming online, a large percentage are women who have aspirations, who want to do something on their own, want to be entrepreneurs, and would love to have some kind of network or connection or role models to help them. So that's kind of what we want to do with GirlTribe. And we want to have fun. We do a lot of fun things. We go dancing, we do art classes. We want to do sort of please, on Malini's GirlTribe on Facebook. And we do something called a brave, which is a breakfast rave, where 6:30 in the morning we do dance, meditation, and yoga, and then have a big fat Bollywood dance party for 4 hours. And we don't need a drop of alcohol to do it. And just all sorts of fun things. So we take a lot of recommendations for things to do. It's just allowing women to be themselves, not mom, sister, daughter, any of those things. It's getting to be yourself and living your best life. So
I absolutely love that. It's literally I'm not even making this up. That's something that I had a struggle even conveying to my mom. I was like, before you're a mother, before you're a wife, before you're a daughter, before you're a sister, before you're anything else, you're you. You gotta always hold on to that you, separate from all of those relationships.
And the thing is that I think, historically women have had to lose their identity, lose their last name, become known as the bahu, and all those different things. But I think we're taking it back, and in a good way. It's not aggressive.
No, exactly, because a lot of times, like you said, we're defined by our relation to a male. Almost.
Yes.
More often than not. So
even mother,
Exactly, like you're a mother to someone. Just but you're also a person.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which is, I think, one of the biggest steps in reclaiming your own identity and establishing that, as an individual, and not just like an extension of someone else, and deserve rights.
And I've been blown away by the women I met in GirlTribe. They are so motivated, they're empowered, they're intelligent, and they're kind, and they want to help each other. I always thought, okay, will it be weird for a bunch of strangers to come into a room? But I think if you give women 5 minutes in a room together, they leave like best friends.
All the bathrooms and restaurants and clubs are a testament to that.
I was talking to Rega Jha, ex-editor of BuzzFeed, and we had this conversation on a show called GirlTribe. And she said, women sort of function in the green room of the world. So we, go to the bathroom, adjust each other's bra straps, fix each other's lipstick, and then go out into the world and have to play a part. And people have this misconception that women have to tear each other down. Even women have that. But I heard this great line that says, I don't need to unscrew another woman's light bulb to shine.
Oh my God, I love that.
And I was like, that's so true. And I was really lucky. I got to hear Michelle Obama speak. I'd gone for a conference, and she was like, I'm very excited. And she said, women don't need to tear each other down, and the one thing you should always do is lift another woman up before you take a step forward, and then everyone will rise. And she looked around and she said, I'm very excited about the future, because the 50 women in this room, they represent tomorrow's leaders and thought makers and mothers and sisters, and they're going to raise a generation of, you know, woke, empathetic and sympathetic people. Kind people.
That's where it starts, like, you know, raising your boys, raising your girls to be
kind. It's simple. That's why I love that Ellen always ends her show with be kind. It's so simple that it's not hard to be kind.
It's not. It's very simple to be a certain way. You don't have to start by some big, like, you know, over the top actions, just one person at a time.
Yeah, and that's why I always notice this, right? Like, women will tend to notice something nice about another woman. Like, I like your hair. Like, I noticed your eyelashes are beautiful. And people wouldn't say it because you feel awkward. And I'm like, so now I say it because I'm like, you know, you always feel like, oh, but that person will be, but you know, you say it, and for a second everyone's a little awkward. Then you feel good, I feel good, and if, you know, everybody wins.
This is actually something that I went to LA for college, and this was something that happened to me a lot over there, where people would just come up to me like, oh my god, your clothes are cute or something, and it just made me feel happy for the rest of the day.
Yeah.
And then I just made it a point, you know what, if I see something and I like anything on anyone, I will make it a point to go up to them and be like, excuse me, I'm sorry, like, this is gorgeous, or like, where'd you get it, or something, because it's just spreading such positive energy.
And you know, it's just like everybody just wants a witness. They want someone to witness their life. And it's and that's what social media is, right? A double tap, a share, like is somebody witnessing your day or anything that you've done, and just an acknowledgement in a world that has 7 billion people.
Exactly. I am in love with everything you're saying. This is such a beautiful episode. I'm very happy recording this. But yeah, like another question that I love asking all of my interviewees is just, who have been the 3 most influential people in your life, and the 3 most important lessons maybe that you took away from them?
Wow, it's a tough one. I feel like a lot of people have influenced me in different stages. I think one is definitely my sister. She's 12 years older than me, and she's kind of been like my mom, because I have a larger age gap with my mom, because she had me when I was, you know, she was 35, and it's a different generation. So my sister, definitely, I really look up to her. She's really my hero, and she's very kind, and she's a great mother, and she's a lawyer, so she's always been kind of a boss lady. There's a guy called Ashok Kurian. He started Ambience Darcy. He was the first one to create a big ad agency here. He works with Z, and he's so self-made, and he's like my best friend's dad, and I really look up to him because he's so self-made from scratch, very successful now, but still so humble and so down to earth. And I love people like that, because he's never flashy about his money. He never like gave his kids like fancy cars. He's like, take a cab, earn your own money. And I love that. You teach people the value. And I'm really I think the third is my team, honestly. Like, I look at the people who sit in this office every day, and I'm so inspired by how hard they want to work. They're motivated, they're excited about the future, they care about the environment, and they really inspire me every day. I come into the office, I see them working hard, they come up with great ideas, they're passionate, and they care about stuff. So I think those are the lessons I've learned. I've learned that no matter how successful you are, stay grounded. Make sure that you are kind, and even if you are ambitious, do it kindly, and don't forget your softer side, and hustle.
Yes, definitely. I can speak to that you're living these values, just because I'm here interviewing right now. Like, I'm a very much of a newcomer, and I just like shot my shot with you, and you're just like, yes, I would love to. And I think that's the definition of what you're even doing with GirlTribe. Thank you. You just want to give opportunity to other people, and I'm grateful for this opportunity.
Thank you. I'm really enjoying this.
I'm so glad. Well, another question to end this interview on, I would love to ask you, if you could go back in time and give a piece of advice to like an 18 or 20-year-old Malini, what would you say to her?
Funny you ask. I actually wrote a chapter in my book.
Really?
Because somebody on Instagram had asked me this question, saying, what advice would you give your 18-year-old self? And I really, I thought about it, and I said I would write her a letter, one saying that, hey, don't worry, everything works out great. Worry less about your skin, worry less about people's, perceptions of you, be less insecure. But I guess all of those things made me who I am. But the biggest lesson is that you have so much time. You have the most valuable currency in the world, opportunity and time. It always gives me goosebumps to think about it. And that, use that time well. When I was doing long distance with my husband, someone gave me great advice. They said, don't wish time away. Because we do that sometimes. We're like, okay, I can't wait till Friday, or I can't wait till college is over, or I can't wait for this long distance to be done. But you're wishing that time away, which is never going to come back.
Exactly.
So use that opportunity to grow and be all the things that you wouldn't have got to be if you were busy doing that. And, keep busy. Do things that you need to do. And I think that's really my biggest advice to my younger self is the amount of time. And, you look back now, I'm 42 years old, and I feel like I have had so many different lifetimes in just one, whether it was growing up all over the world, my experiences in Delhi, moving here, all the evolution. And it was only because I had so much time to do it in.
Yeah, and you just kept going. You weren't like, I think it's something that even my mom had been telling me when I was struggling to, when you're going the entrepreneurship route, it's really nerve-wracking.
It is, yeah.
You're just like, just do something. Just start.
Yeah.
Start with something, and then you have a lot of time.
Exactly. You have time, and it's okay to screw up. It's okay to fail. The most important thing, as cheesy as it is the biggest failure would be to not try at all.
Exactly.
And we always take ourselves so seriously, right? We're all here for like 0 to 80, 90, 100 years. And, we're not going to take anything that we have physically with us. The things you will remember are when you had the most emotional things, when you laughed, you cried, you were deeply heartbroken, or you were deeply in love. So approach those. There's a movie called Moulin Rouge. I love the line that says, the greatest thing you'll ever learn is just to love and be loved in return. And it's not necessarily just romantic love. It's, love of your friends and, people that you admire, your colleagues, everything. And find that moment where you really feel a connection with each other. And I think that that's really the most important thing to take away.
I love that. I could not have put it better myself. You're like a wizard with words.
Oh, wow, thank you.
I was told by your team, like, you're going to be blown away by her, just how she converses and the way she talks, and that stands true. Thank you. Thank you so much, Malini.
Thank you for having me.
Genuinely enjoyed this so much. I think I was just mesmerized at the time. I was like, yes, I want to take this in. Like, I feel like I should be writing this down. But I think this is great advice that people who are especially trying to make it as entrepreneurs or trying to create anything in the world, they're going to learn from. And I know that I have taken away so much from this, and I am really excited to actually be part of the journey with you, with GirlTribe, with anything.
That would be great.
That speaks to
And I must tell you, you're a great host. You're very invested, and you're really listening and asking the questions that are follow-ups to the answers, and it's a very rare skill. So great job.
That is, oh my god, I'm so happy. You made my day, essentially. Well, thank you so much. And if anyone has any follow-up questions for Malini, can they contact you on LinkedIn or?
Yeah, anywhere. All across the internet, basically at Miss Malini or Malini Agarwal, and of course on Malini's GirlTribe on Facebook.
Yes, definitely. Everybody join in and feel the love.
Absolutely.
That's it. That was our show. Thank you so much for watching. I really hope that you got something really positive out of that episode. I know that I love speaking to these boss brown women, as I like to call them, and I walk away from each episode recording feeling motivated and inspired to pursue my dreams. So I really hope that that's the exact takeaway that you get from today's episode. If you have any other questions for our guests, or if you have someone in mind that you'd like for us to feature on the show, please let me know in the comments down below, or you can email me at lavanya@bossbrownwomen.com. Well, if you really like what you saw from the show and want to hear from us more, please hit the subscribe button down below and the little bell icon right next to it to get a notification each time we upload a new video. Well, that's it for today. See you again next time.